hope you all are having a fantastic day and a good Friday. So actually, it's kind of a week late getting out. I wanted to have this done and up last week, but since this is kind of like a time-consuming challenge, it didn't work out, but that's okay. It still got uploaded. So as the title suggests, I'm going to be spelling my name in TBRs, which I think is just a really fun and unique way to get in some of those TBRs that have been waiting forever. So I have some here. These are all library books. 4 of them were ebooks, I want to say. So the first book that I did is Vote for Murder, which I talked about in my previous video, which was my March reads, which you can see more of an in-depth review in that video. But overall, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was really interesting. It was a suffragettes murder mystery, and it was really interesting, and it switched between 2 different point of views from accounts and letters, and then the current day, which isn't our current day, but like with the suffragette who murders that needed solving, and they kind of interlocked in ways. It was interesting. Okay, and then for the first iBook, because my name Virginia has 3 I's, so it got a little intense trying to find books for all these. But my second book is The Island of the Blue Dolphins. First time ever reading this, and which is kind of sad because this is a classic, and like I'd never read it before, and it was honestly really sad. And one of the reviews in the back says that this book it's kind of haunting. Yeah, haunting, an unusual story, the school library journal says. And I have to agree with that. It was very haunting, and like just the isolation the main character goes through on the island. The writing was really pretty, and it's very unique. It's really its own book. I don't think I've ever read anything quite like this before, and this particular edition had illustrations in it, which really made the reading fun. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I did lose interest a few times. I don't think this is entirely targeted for me. Not to say it was bad, I still did enjoy it. I did not expect the ending to work out the way it did, and it was kind of depressing, honestly. Yeah, this isn't a lighthearted, I don't think it's a lighthearted read. I think it's kind of somber and like, you know, haunting. But I ended up giving this 4 stars. And then my R book, I read The River, and honestly, I ended up DNFing this by page like 16. I could not get into it. I mean, I'm not even kidding. I could not get into this at all. And not just because of the language. It had a lot of indecency and like just foul language that just was a complete turn off. This had it right from the get-go, and aside from that, I could not get into it. I read through the prologue. It was hard to get into. I'm sure other people do love this, and it's just not for me. But it has been on my reading list since like 2019 when it came out, so I am glad to, you know, have finally checked it out and given it a shot. But yeah, it's just not for me. So I gave it 1 star. I don't know, I always feel bad giving such low star ratings, but it didn't appeal to me. Others may like it, it's just not for me. Moving on to G, I finally got to read The Guild of Thieves by Jaden Phillips, which is something I have wanted to read forever. Finally got around to it, and it was so good. I was impressed. It was an amazing story with all kinds of really good themes like loyalty, redemption, friendship. I think my favorite part would be between the characters and the world building. It was like very immersive. The struggle Dice had between right and wrong and trying to, you know, to do what was right while living the life of a thief and trying to still survive. It was just so good. Super, super good. I gave it 5 stars, and it was just awesome. Highly recommend this if you like fantasy adventures, desert settings. It had an Aladdin feel to it, which was really fun. I think my only dislike out of the whole thing was some overused phrasings, but honestly, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it was noticeable. Before I continue on with our next book, I do want to bring up this cover reveal that came out a few days ago. It is for Heart of Strength by Madison Carlin, and it is part of the Hearts of the West multi-author series going on. And this is book 6 out of that 10-book series. And this is a Christian historical romance, and isn't the cover just so pretty? This book is set to release September 17th of this year, and I have all the links below, including the pre-order, some of the author links, and I want to say I have the Goodreads link, I don't know. If you are interested, check all those out, and let's get back to my TBR list. And moving on to moving on to letter I, the second I believe, we have Indian in the Cupboard. Well, actually, The Indian in the Cupboard. It was an interesting read. Honestly, I watched the movie some years ago, and it's pretty similar. I mean, it's okay. It does take place in the UK, so some of the slang and phrasing was a bit like just non-familiar for me, so that was it was different. I did not like Patrick's character at all. I think actually as I was reading it, it kept coming into my mind, with a friend like Patrick, who needs an enemy? Because this kid was just annoying. Omar's okay. I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, overall, the book was just so for me. It had an interesting plot, obviously. I mean, it was really cool. But overall, I mean, it was okay. If you like the movie, then you'll definitely enjoy the book because they're super similar. So I gave this 3 stars, just down the middle. It was okay. I mean, I didn't really overly love it, and I didn't hate it. So, I mean, it was okay. And it's a pretty short read, so it was, you know, not too time consuming. I think I finished this in like just 2 nights, I think. And moving on to the letter N, I chose The Nutcracker King, which is a dark retelling of The Nutcracker. It was a lot darker than I thought it would be, and I was honestly not prepared for this, and it was really bloody. And that is coming from someone who is currently in the midst of reading the Cirque du Freak series, which is about vampires, but this was a lot more gruesome and violent than that, which, I don't know, take that as you will. But this was honestly really intense and not at all what I expected. Now, okay, so I'm not very familiar with the Nutcracker. I did read Battle for the Land of Sweets, which was a Nutcracker retelling with a lot of cute, wholesome Narnia vibes. I felt that one, you didn't have to have as much background in the Nutcracker, the original story, as you do this one. The Battle for Land of Sweets, you could just jump into that, have bare minimum knowledge of like the main characters, and that's it, and be okay. This, however, it went into some a bit deeper, and like I wasn't sure who like King Candy was, or this name here that I'm not sure how to pronounce. I don't know if they were in the original story or if the author just made these up. I don't know. So that was really, I was confused as to what was going on. And apparently the Clara character, like the girl, her name's Marie. I didn't know that. So that really threw me off because I was like, okay, wait a minute, this is confusing. I think if I had better knowledge of the original story, I would have had a better time reading this. But as it is, it was a struggle, and all the violence was kind of intense, honestly, and it was kind of spooky. Starting this, it was kind of rocky and confusing. It did get better as I went on, but overall it just, I don't know, it was definitely unique and a very dark retelling. So if that's what you like, by all means, you'll probably really enjoy this. It wasn't for me. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I probably will not be continuing the series, even though it looks intriguing. If it's a certain targeted audience, this would be amazing. But it was an interesting plot, very unique, and the writing wasn't bad. It was just a bit much for me. But yeah. Moving on to the last I in my name, I selected the Inheritance games, which I've had on my physical shelf for a couple years now. Bought it on a whim, mostly for the cover. It is so amazing. I just love it. And the back sounds interesting. As someone who really enjoyed the plot to the movie Knives Out, this sounded good. And it really was, you know, it had the same essence and the same like feel as Knives Out. But instead of the murder mystery to solve, there's riddles and there's puzzles and there's just trying to find out the truth, you know, about the whole inheritance and everything. As intriguing as this was, and it is very intriguing, I could see how people love this book because It's interesting. However, what I did not like at all was the love triangle and the relationship hopping. This girl, Avery, she bounces between these brothers, and it's like, stop. Just stop. It's so annoying. By reading this, I found out I don't like love triangles. That's a trope that I do not like. Of course, there's the Hunger Games, which I did like the Hunger Games. Okay, anyway, but I digress. I just didn't like this. And the language. Okay, there's some language throughout, but her friend Max, I think she was only, it seems like to me that she was only a character there just so we could throw in some fake heavy cursing, you know? So that was a turnoff, and it's like, just stop, you know? That's all, I think that's all the vocabulary her friend had, and it was really annoying. It's like, just stop. The short chapters were amazing. The plot is super interesting. The cover is stunning, like I said, total eye catcher. But it's just, I really don't know. I really don't know. So I really wish I had liked this more than I did. Without the love triangle, I think this would have been really good, and it would have had more potential. See, that's where Knives Out really thrives, because there was no romance that I remembered. It was just trying to figure out who's setting her up, and you know, who's what's going down. It was I think that was executed much more better because it didn't have all the stuff going on that this did. So I personally don't think it's worth the hype. I mean, others may, and that's totally fine. It was just preference, not for me. I gave it 2 stars because the cover is amazing, and it, you know, it had a lot of potential. It really did. But my sister is interested to read this, so I will be giving this to her, and hopefully she does enjoy it, because, you know, it's fun when you read a book that you really like. Okay, and for the very last letter in my name, A, I went back to my high school days, and I selected Animal Farm. And oh my goodness, it's a very short read, like 70 to 90 pages. And like, when I read this in high school, it was for an assignment. It was over my head. I really didn't care. I just wanted to be done. That, along with The Great Gatsby, which I've never reread, I didn't like that at all. And like Fahrenheit 451, all those that you had to read for school, ugh. But reading this now, so good and so accurate, guys. Like, it's scary how good this is. A while back, I also read 1984, which was superb. Like, I'm not kidding. And I think this is a must read. Everyone needs to read this. I think Animal Farm is a lighter read than 1984. However, there is a lot of animal death, some violence. So if you're sensitive to that, you may get a little uncomfortable with this book. So there's that to take into consideration. But for the message, and if you read between the lines, guys, this is so intense, and I think everyone needs to read this because it's just so prevalent to our time. I mean, a big theme of it was rules for thee, not for me kind of thing. Wow, it's so good. I mean, I highly recommend this. I gave it 5 stars. It was a really good read. And then a couple days after, I ended up watching the cartoon from 1954, which was interesting. It was kind of scary actually, but it was really good. I recommend it. It's free to watch on YouTube, which I will have the link down below if you want to check it out. But it was pretty good, and it stayed basically true to the story. And oh my goodness, poor Boxer, one of the horses. I felt so bad for him, and his story is so sad. And like, oh my goodness, the ending was amazing. I wish there had been a little bit more in the book. I mean, it was a good ending. It ended perfectly, but part of me is like, man, there needs to be something else. And I think that something else is a happy ending, or like a, you know, just like a more solid conclusion, I think, because, oh man, but it's perfect. I love it, and I am so glad that I finally got to read it and enjoyed it and was able to appreciate the meaning behind the story. So that was a good time, and I think I finished in like 2 days, so highly recommend that. This video was filmed and the books were read over a like 3-week time period. So right now, as I'm at the end, I don't have any of those library books with me, unfortunately, but it was really fun, and it was a good challenge. I'm very glad that even though it was an endeavor and a lot more of a process than I originally anticipated, and this video I actually supposed to go out like 3 weeks ago. But yeah, I've had other obligations, and you know, you can't always just sit down and read. That's just life, you know? That's why you gotta treasure the moments when you can enjoy a book. But it was really fun, and I enjoyed this. Let me know if you enjoyed this challenge. If you plan to do it, that would be really cool. I would love to hear about it, how it goes. I'm thinking, since today was supposed to originally be like my April reads, I'm going to save that for the next following week or whatever. So I'll share all about that there, and you'll see a lot of these books I just talked about on there as well. Not all of them, but some of them. So that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, got a book rec or 3, and until next time, happy reading!